Hello, and welcome to the Study Abroad Pod. The act of traveling really puts a spotlight on how we behave, engage, and adapt to new cultures and places. Your sense of identity becomes very important in shaping your experience. To explain what that means, this episode features an honest conversation between two friends, Rabiah, a Nigerian American and Muslim woman, and Thomas, an openly gay Puerto Rican man. They met during their study abroad program in Alicante, Spain, and haven't stopped laughing together since. Listen to their tips for energizing your identity at home and abroad.
Hi, Rabiah.
Hey, Thomas.
Hi, everyone listening.
Long time no see.
No, literally. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank
for wanting
you so
to hear our
much.
stories.
And we encourage you to buckle up because we might get a little crazy.
Wait, they need to know who we are.
Okay.
They don't know who we are.
Period.
Wait,
do you want to
go
first?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So my name's Thomas Jimenez, and I'm from Hunter College in New York City. And I'm majoring in both human biology and Africana Puerto Rican Latino studies. And I'm planning to become a doctor. So I'm on the pre-med track. And this is my lovely co-host, Rabiah, who I met in Alicante. Rabiah, take it away.
Thanks, Thomas. Thank you for your lovely introduction. My name is Rabiah Nala. I recently graduated this May from the University of Iowa, and I studied graphic design and cinema. I'm not from Iowa, though. Contrary to very popular belief, Thomas loves to call me Iowa girl, but I'm not from Iowa.
Not from Iowa.
Heavy on the not from Iowa. No shade to Iowa. No shade to Iowans. I'm from Central Illinois. I'm currently just vibing with my family right now, but I'm originally Nigerian American. Both my parents were born and raised in Nigeria, and I'm a hijabi, Muslim woman. So that's also part of my identity as well. And yeah, both me and Thomas met this winter in the Alicante program, and we've been besties, inseparable ever since.
I love that. I also, listening to you, it just made me forget how much I forgot, stuff I forgot to mention. I'm a rising senior, so I haven't graduated yet. I'm not as old as Rabiah. And I am an openly gay Puerto Rican, so ask me about that.
Oh yeah, period. I was gonna, ask me about
about
identities. Yes. Ask me about being Muslim, ask me about the Midwest.
Rabiah, what were some of the most surprising aspects of the local culture in Alicante that we encountered?
Oh my gosh. So I don't know what I thought Spain would be like. Okay, I my idea of Spain was based on Cheetah Girls and like Barcelona and just, singing in the streets, dancing. Everybody is super just like fun. Everybody's just like eating tapas. Like, I just had this like very romantic movie like ish view of just Spain in general. And I don't know about you. I think we both actually talked about this, how we didn't really know much about Alicante in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like you had already been to Barcelona.
I had been to Spain, but I had never heard of Alicante before USAC, which really it honestly like scared me a bit, but it excited me even more because I'm like, what is this small little city in the south of Spain? And I was so excited to know more about it, but honestly did not know much about the people or about
Yeah, and I remember how we were talking about too, in like choosing our study abroad programs. Like you were also looking at, because there's Cuba for the winter too, and I was like, oh, I want to go to Cuba.
There were so many good options on USAC. I like didn't know which one to pick. I was sadder in Spain though. I saw Alicante and I saw the winter session, and I was like, bam, that one's for me.
What surprised me specifically about Alicante was just the fact that like everybody was just out. Like, remember how we would just always see just like kids and like families just like 24/7? We're like, do people have jobs? Do people have school? Like, what's going on? Why is everyone just like hanging out and like just around? And especially me too, being from like small town Illinois, people aren't out like that. Like, it's it's not walkable here. And then also it's just like, I don't know, I just think the culture here, at least in where I'm from, people just after like 5 p.m. you don't tend to see people just like out and about constantly. And if you do, it's like people who, I don't know, it's like, I don't know. I just wasn't used to seeing families as often. And I loved that. I loved just like walking around, back from the mercado or wherever the heck, and just seeing people like pushing their strollers with their babies, with their families, with their kids. And just like the whole city felt so, so vibrant. But then we quickly realized, we're like, oh, it's because it's literally like they get like 3 weeks holiday for like Christmas and all that. So we're like, okay, that makes sense. People do have jobs. They're just off right now. But yeah, that was like a big thing that surprised me. And I remember on the first day, like our resident director, Luis, like showed us around. We walked around the central, or like the city center, whatever. And then he showed us the route to school and everything. But I sometimes I think about it, and I think about just our whole experience, and I think about all of the fun, but then sometimes I forget about the class and like the school aspect of it. But then when I remember, I'm like, wait, it was actually really fun. Like, I don't know. I want to hear about what was your experience? Because I know you were in a different class than I was, but I would always hear like your teacher was so fun. Yeah. But yeah, what was your experience like?
I think, I totally agree. I think it was, we were in a foreign country, so it didn't feel like school every day.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a nice balance between school and like social life and going out and just like getting to know the people on the trip. Even, we're not in the same class, but we were so close and we still spent so much time together. So there was so much outside of school that we were able to do. And that was great. I think USAC did a nice job on the balance between like school hours and hanging out hours. But yeah, I loved my professora. If you're listening right now, te amo mucho.
She was a queen.
She took us out for tapas. She was great. She was really
funny story about the tapas that she took us out. It was so fun, and she was like, because we were this restaurant that we went to. It was like, they just keep on coming and asking you for like different tapas, and you basically just like take what you want, and at the end, and each of the tapas has like a little
stick. They have
a stick. So now at the end they count the sticks that you have, and then that's how they like charge you for like how many tapas you got. So Thomas's profesora, she was like giving examples of like, like some people might get like a few tapas if they want to, and then like she was like pointing at somebody random, and then she was pointing at, I think she was just giving an example, but then she pointed at me, just like, some people might get like 10 tapas.
Rabiah was so
and I was
offended.
Like, girl, what do you mean by that? 10 tapas?
She had chose you for the example for the 10 tapas.
Like, I was like, do we box right now? I'm just kidding. This is
no,
just
Maria
kidding.
Escribano, my profesora, Maria Escribano, if you're out there, we all loved you so much.
We still do love
you. She was great. She explained things so easily, and she made the whole class seem conversational, even though we weren't even in I think there was a conversation in Spanish class, but everything that we learned, we applied it each day actively to each other, at the shops, with the locals, and I thought the tests were really straightforward. I did good on them because I also studied every day that I was there.
Bookworm. Such a bookworm. Was it harder than you thought it would be? Like the teaching style, the pace of everything, or was it
fast? It was fast paced. I don't know if I would say it was harder than a normal semester, but the fact that it was in the winter, it was like 2 units a day. So it was overwhelming at first, but what made it so easy was like each time we learned a new concept, she would literally just like use it in the lesson, or speaking with us directly, or make us practice like with the person sitting next to us. So everything was so applicable, which made it feel like you weren't really studying that hard, and it allowed you to keep up with the pace of the class because you were just like applying it and applying it and applying it, and then when the test came, you were like, wait, we literally just talked about this and we were using that this morning. Yeah.
So I'm like, whoa, like this is like the first time I feel like I've had to like speak Spanish and hold a conversation and come up with things to say. So then I could hear myself not know the right conjugation. I can hear myself not know the right vocab. So I'm like, I know exactly what I need to practice.
And it was so rewarding.
It was so rewarding.
The best part is like you had just vomited out a whole sentence with that.
Vomited is great.
Like all of it just comes out naturally after the first couple days. There's a whole bunch of this fresh vocabulary and things you've just been hearing and stuff that your professors have instilled in you that you kind of just like don't have to think too hard about just saying it. It helped that Rabiah and I practiced a lot outside of school. Like we would try and only speak to each other in Spanish, like when we were cooking dinner or we were just walking back to the apartments, and that helped a lot. We both had different levels of Spanish going into it also, which I thought was interesting. Like I grew up speaking Spanish and my whole family speaks Spanish, so my vocabulary is Boricua in the house, but I have a pretty decent I would say proficiency in Spanish, but when I got to Spain, all of the like vosotros and vale and coche and móvil and all of these words I had never heard before, and I'm just like, wait, what is this person saying to me? And Rabiah would use those words, and I would be like, wait, girl, go back. I've never even heard of that. And she's like, you don't know what coche is? And I'm like, carro and stuff like that. So I thought it was interesting that we both had different levels, but when we spoke in Spanish together, it flowed so nicely. Yeah. How would you say that like the language barriers affected your ability to like speak to people and just immerse yourself in the culture and even just like be a resident of Spain for a couple of weeks?
That is a beautiful, great question. It was hard, I won't lie. Like I definitely came in thinking like I listened to Bad Bunny. I watch Elite on Netflix. Like I had been watching my Spanish shows. Like I was pretty comfortable in my Spanish before going, and I was like, dude, this is gonna be fine. I'm gonna go to these restaurants and I'm gonna order in Spanish. I'm gonna speak Spanish, and they're all gonna speak Spanish to me, and it's gonna be great. I go to a restaurant. I'm like, puedo tener blah 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 blah, and then they respond to me in English because they obviously tell that I guess they were like, it's easier to speak in English. We know you're American, whatever. So I was, but then sometimes after that experience a couple of times, I was like, you know what, maybe I just speak English. And I mean, all of us were American students, so whenever we would hang out, we would all speak English to each other. But I think that as time went on, like going to the grocery store and interacting with people on the street or people on the sidewalk and hearing them speak Spanish, because obviously I think that as you're walking and as you're whatever, people don't immediately be like, okay, we're going to speak to you in English. Like people will still, for the most part, I feel like a lot of people, everyone pretty much spoke Spanish. I think we were lucky. Alicante is more of like a family sort of, it's not as touristy as like Barcelona and Madrid.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot, like most everyone spoke little English, more Spanish.
Yeah, it was mostly like younger people if they knew English.
Yeah.
Almost all of the adults were only Spanish speaking.
Only speaking Spanish. So it was adjustment. It was hard at times. My phone switched to Spanish, like all my ads on like Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, everything was in Spanish. And then also our landlady for our apartment, she only spoke in Spanish. I know that you were very used to, you know, like I feel like New York, and there's a lot of Puerto Ricans in New York. There's a lot of Spanish speakers in New York, and you're definitely used to that type of Spanish. Do you feel like people could pick up on the fact that, because I know that we would be out and like everyone would turn to like you or like Boris or like Roy to like do the Spanish speaking because you guys are fluent. But did you feel like, okay, they know that I'm not speaking Spanish. Oh, like they're judging me on the way I'm speaking, or like, I like kind of identity based, like just, you know, did you feel any of that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we don't Latin American Spanish is different, and it's like you can hear it almost instantly, especially like whether it's Puerto Rican Spanish or Guatemalan Spanish or Mexican Spanish. There's a whole bunch of different dialects like gracias instead of gracias, and we don't use vosotros. We say ustedes. So even me just saying ustedes, because that just comes quicker to me when I would speak, people would be like, oh, ¿de dónde eres? ¿De dónde eres? Hablas español muy bien, pero tú no eres de España. And I would be like, yeah. So, like I would say like, soy de Nueva York, but my family's from Puerto Rico. And I would get that a lot, that people would like understand me, but be confused at first and then be like, wait, you speak Spanish, but it's not the same. And I totally felt that way back. Like there would be words that I didn't quite catch, or they would conjugate vosotros, and I didn't know like any of the ace or the ice, whatever that ending is. So it was a learning curve, but it was so cool because we were like connecting but different, and we were both like super curious about each other's Spanishes, and that was how majority of my interactions with the locals went.
Yeah. I love that. Do you feel like during your like morning routine, like would you just like I feel like you're really confident in your Spanish speaking ability. Did you feel like you tried to speak Spanish? Like going to the grocery store in the morning or going to wherever? Like do you feel like were there any times where you were like nervous, or were you just like, no, I'm just gonna speak Spanish this whole time?
I think it depends on who I'm speaking to. For the most part, if it's like a local I'm never going to see again, the stakes are a little bit lower on that. But if it's like to my professor and I want to make a good impression and I want to like use the vocabulary, like she taught us the subjuntivo, and that's something very difficult in Spanish, and it has many different contexts and different scenarios you can use it in. And I wanted to make sure that if I was speaking to her and I had to use the subjuntivo, that I was using it correctly, because it would just be a little bit embarrassing if I was talking to her about something and she had just taught me that and I misspoke. But if it was like to my teacher, or even sometimes Luis, like our program director, I really wanted to make sure that they knew that I was practicing my Spanish and that I was giving it my best shot. So yeah, that's definitely how it was for me. I know you get a little bit nervous to speak Spanish just generally. Does it matter who you're speaking to, or is it more like you get in your head about conjugations and stuff like that? How does that work?
No, I feel like literally the only person I'm not nervous to speak Spanish with is you, because I feel like you're so like you know that sometimes it's a little difficult, but then you're also very, very helpful.
And I also met you fairly early on when we were doing the walking tour of Alicante the day before school started. I think we were looking at the oldest iglesia or cathedral or something in Alicante. It was just really old building, and we had to like walk up a whole bunch of stairs. Do you remember? And we were all so tired. And you made like this really funny joke about, I think it was about moving here, but about like how exhausting it is to just like climb. It was something along the lines of that. And I just remember hearing that in the corner of my ear and being like, who is this like sassy, funny, like ridiculous person that I'm hearing right now cracking jokes about this like church? And I'm like,
no, I was definitely like, Luis was probably like, okay, and now we're gonna climb 500,000 flights of stairs, and I was probably like, girl, who's gonna climb? You are gonna climb, not me. Like it was probably something like that.
It was something like, this church is beautiful, but I already reached my steps for the day.
Yeah, like it was
and
like it's been fun.
I just remember looking over and being like, who, like I'm the funny one of the group, like who is trying to replace me right now?
Not even right. You're so annoying for that. And no, we were definitely like I feel like I remember you saying something crazy too.
We clicked so instantly, and like I've never had such good banter with another person. Like it was like people couldn't stand to be around Rabiah and I, because we would never take a thing seriously. We'd always be doing stuff for the bit. We'd always just be like in our own world, like joking about stuff and like speaking in Spanish, and just like I think that whole trip, it was like Thomas and Rabiah. Like our names were sort of together because we were just like always excited to be around each other and to interact with everybody. But Rabiah and I clicked really, really well, really fast. And then yeah, we just started hanging out with the people we like walked to school with, or like the people we would talk to during break together. We all got breaks from our classes at the same time, so that helped socializing. And yeah, I know it was easy to make friends.
Yeah,
Especially with the USAC people.
Honestly, I feel like we got lucky because like everybody just became so close so fast. Like as soon as somebody like made the Snapchat group chat and everybody just joined it, I feel like we were just always talking, always making plans. But I remember like before Alicante, I kind of had this like mental sit down with myself, and I decided that I was gonna be a little bit more outgoing than I might typically be, just for the sake of like I want to have fun, I want to meet people. You know, this is not the time to be introverted and like I just want to be in my room and read my book and whatever. Like you only have 3 weeks, make the most out of it. So there were definitely days that like I was like, oh my god, like I just want to go home after class and just like take a nap. But then I was like, you know what? No, like I'm in Spain. Like let me just go out and, you know, do stuff with my friends, because I know that the day I don't want to regret anything. Like I don't want to leave Alicante and been like, oh my god, I wish I would have talked in class more. I wish I would have said hi to this person, or like I know for a fact that I could not do that to myself. So I was like, you know, let me just do whatever. So and I feel like I did. Like I feel like I had this little video camera and I made a vlog, like I was vlogging pretty much the whole time and just like interviewing random people. Like, and I think that also helped me too, because I feel like when somebody's just like randomly interviewing you, like you can hide behind the camera and it's like not as awkward. So yeah, I would just like walk up to somebody random in the group and be like, how's your day going? Or like be like, remember that like all of our footage from like on the way to Guadalest or wherever we were going.
To clarify, when she says random, she means like other people in the USAC group, not random strangers on the street.
Yeah.
Like she means like people she
So
hadn't
real,
gotten.
because there's so much like fun, cute little footage and stuff like that. But yeah, I think just like we got so lucky with great resident directors, and honestly, even before entering Spain, I felt like these people are going above and beyond. Like there was I don't know if what her title was, but she was like helping me with like logistics, and like she was like checking in on me with my flight, because my flight was like super messed up going into it. But then I remember thinking like, wow, like these people really care.
Yeah.
They're, you know, they were like, give the resident director your number because you're arriving a little bit later, but he'll just come pick you up. And he literally, like, it was like 10 p.m. and he picked me up from the train station and walked me to my apartment like right as we got there. So like I feel like right off the bat, like we could tell that these people were some really nice, just like lovely people. Like I mentioned earlier how I got a little bit of cold feet before going to Alicante. I was like, wait, this is kind of expensive. Like I don't know if I want to do this. And I also was really scared that like as a Muslim, I was like, am I gonna fit in? Like, is this gonna be safe for me? I know Spain is like majority Catholic country. Like I don't know if I was gonna find food I could eat or like stuff like that. And I remember Luis, the resident director, called me and he was like, hi, like I just wanted to talk you through some things that you might be worried about or some questions that you might have. We have a lot of halal restaurants. We have a lot of mosques. I can give you the names of these mosques. If you ever want to go, we can take you. I was also, I was like, I was like scared for my rooming situation too, because I didn't want any partying or whatever going around me. So he was like, yeah, like we can ensure that you're, you know, with these specific people and that you're a little bit further away from like the downtown or whatever makes you feel safe. Just, it was basically just, they were so accommodating where I was like, to the point where I was like, dude, I can't not go. Like, just to go above and beyond for somebody that you don't even know. And I'm like, wow, this this is amazing. Like I don't think I had ever felt, because I feel like it's so easy for, study abroad advisors or whatever school advisors that you have. You get the feeling that they don't really want to help you. They're just doing it because it's their job, you know? Like I feel like in school I had that feeling so many times. But with everybody in USAC and just like all of the Alicante like staff that we encountered, I didn't feel like it was just a job to them. Like I feel like they genuinely cared about making connections.
Yeah, I loved the team, the USAC team at
Heavy on loved. Like we loved them.
Okay, so let's talk about identity, Rabiah. Like you touched before, you had some cold feet going into this.
Mm-hmm.
We're both pretty unconventional travelers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, to say the least. I mean, I'm openly gay, and I'm also like extremely flamboyant. I would say that I'm like not shy about like my expressions or maybe moving my hands or maybe just dressing in a particular way, but I wouldn't say I ever felt unsafe. Like I'm just like openly queer, and everybody was really, really cool about it. And like I felt like Alicante was a queer space.
We did a little trip to Portugal too, and I feel like when we were in Lisbon, like there were so like many different people, because there's like that street of just like a bunch of restaurants and like places and stuff like that, and I feel like it was super welcoming. Like, I mean, obviously I don't want to speak for you, but
no, I 100% agree. I think like the whole Iberian Peninsula for the most part is like very queer friendly, at least with my experience so far, because I've also been to we went to Alicante, I've been to Barcelona, I've also been to Valencia with USAC. We went to Guadalest, and we went to Lisbon. Me and Rabiah went to Lisbon. But yeah, I would say that I felt really, really welcomed and accepted by everybody there. There was one incident where we went to this store. Nobody wants to hear about this anymore out of our group because I have beat this store down.
So
I was so obsessed with this store, and I think it was because it was like my first experience of somebody like not like harassing me, but it was like my first big experience of somebody like challenging my identity.
Wait, tell the story.
So I guess my way of coping with somebody strongly challenging my identity is laughing at it and bringing it up so often because it was just so hilarious and ridiculous. I wanted to buy loafers. I didn't have any black shoes on my trip, and I feel like black shoes are an essential. If the USAC packing list doesn't have black shoes after this, then I have a bone to pick because you need them. Like they match with every outfit. You can dress them up, you can dress them down. I wanted a pair of loafers. And we went to the store. It looked like they had everything because judging by their display, they had like they had a unicorn
onesie.
They had a unicorn onesie next to like a bra set, like literally lingerie, like a bra set, and then they had like jewelry, and then they had like I would say it was like a really small, just like 99-cent store kind of vibe. When I went to the store and I tried to find black loafers, I saw that they had a whole bunch of shoes in the back of the store. And there was this one pair in particular that I really, really liked. And they were just black standard loafers. They had like a little heel on them. And then they had a buckle in the front. So I was like, these are really cute. And like I did the like currency exchange thingy on my phone, and I found out that they were like a decent price for the loafers anyway. And then I asked the lady in Spanish, and I was like, I think I just asked her to try them on, and I asked her like, tiene este zapato in whatever size I was asking for, and she basically told me, you can't try those on. And I was like confused at first because like, oh, they don't have my size. And I was like, oh, wait, what if I do this size? And then they were like, I'm not selling you these shoes. They're for women. So I was just really confused at first what was going on. And because at first I thought it was like the size, because they have different sizes there too. I think I was asking for like a 36 or something crazy like that. It was not the normal size I'm used to getting in America. That would be like Bigfoot if Bigfoot needed a shoe size here. But I asked for my size and she said no. And I was really scared to confront her a second time because I was determined to buy those shoes. And
They were
so,
cute.
and Rabia was also trying on a pair of shoes as well. I don't think she was like seriously shopping for stuff, but she was also there just like checking out the store. And I had asked her, I was like, do you mind asking this lady for this shoe in this size so I can buy it? And Rabia ended up asking her for the shoe size, and I ended up trying them on in front of her. Like I made eye contact with her as I was sliding it onto my right foot, and I was like, guess who's trying it on now? And I ended up, they fit like a glove. I felt like Cinderella, and I bought those shoes. I bought those shoes without thinking too hard about it, because it was more of like an empowered thing. Like, I'm gonna buy these shoes whether you want me to wear them or not. And it's just a really funny story, because like, why do you care so much? Like, I'm giving you the money anyway.
Shoes.
Like, I could have been buying as a gift, and like, you don't really
Literally,
know.
like what?
And just because Rabia had asked for them, she's allowed to try them on. It was just so weird. And they weren't even like particularly like feminine shoes. Like, they were just black loafers.
The funniest thing too about this incident is they were the worst shoes I've actually ever worn. Like both of us, they're the worst shoes we've ever worn in our lives. Like our feet after wearing them for like,
Well,
I think it like
we wore them
4
on
hours.
New Year's.
Yeah, bleeding, like literally, like like the
Blisters.
it was so bad that we walked home barefoot.
We
like,
walked home barefoot. Well, not, we had socks on. We
didn't. No, we didn't have. I didn't have socks on.
I had socks on. Girl, you might have contracted something on that concrete.
That's probably why I haven't been the same since, because those shoes
and we
were
would call
so
them
bad.
That was my first time, I think, ever, because I'm from New York City, and it's fairly, I mean, it's largely diverse, and there's a lot of queer people here. And I grew up here, so I'm very transparent about who I am and how I act. So for the most part, that was like my only experience with somebody I didn't know personally that had something to say about like my sexuality or even just like my fashion choices. So it was interesting for that to play out, and I turned it into a joke. And so that was my way of like, and it was the only time that it ever happened. I had been to Spain before then as well. So I would say Spain is great for queer people, and it's a really awesome place to visit. And I wouldn't let your queerness stop you from going if that's what you're concerned about.
I love that. I love just like how it felt so safe for you. And
thank you.
Yeah, it was just nice. You know, it's always nice to see people that you feel like you can identify with, or just like feel that comfort. Just to kind of give a little bit into my experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very Black, very Muslim, you know, and I'm also like 6 feet tall. So unfortunately,
you can spot her from a mile away.
A mile away. Like, it's not even a joke. Like, you can spot me. You know what I mean?
And I love it.
And like, I've been like that for as long as I've known, right? So like, before I did this little study abroad trip, I thought about it. You know, Spain is one of those countries that doesn't have too many Black people. So like, I was definitely a little bit weary. I might see Muslims, but I knew for a fact that I was not going to see any Black people. And I was pretty much right. I think the whole time I was there, I maybe saw one Black person. But like, my outlook, and like, also this is to anybody who can identify as well. You will hear so many people talk about, I would love to visit this country, but I'm Black and they're going to be racist, so I don't know if I should go. But like, if you have that mindset, you better not step foot in anywhere, because you will encounter racist people. I feel like anywhere that you go, you can encounter people that may be hateful or may be some type of way towards your identity. Maybe because they haven't encountered people who look like you before. Maybe they have. Maybe they just have some sort of prejudice. It's, you know, it's kind of like, okay, so what? You know, what do I do with that information? How do I navigate with that information, with that reality? You can't really, there's nowhere on earth that you can go to and expect to not be discriminated against for any part of your identity, because people always will have something to say about who you are. Knowing that, and also I went to school in Iowa for 4 years. Like, whatever anybody can say, girl, I've got it. Like, I know, I'm used to it in that sort of sense of like, weird looks, or not necessarily having people talk to you, or kind of people being rude, or people refusing service, or people just like laughing, or just like I will always try to keep my ears open, specifically hearing words in Spanish that could be, derogatory in any sense. Taking all of that into consideration, it's just so important to just do you, I feel like. And I feel like that's what I did. I feel like that's what Thomas did. I feel like that's what so many of our friends did. I was actually, oh, wait, I didn't see just, okay, I maybe saw 4 Black people, because three Black people, 3 of the Black people that I saw in Spain were part of the study abroad program. So yeah, that's really different, because I feel like I remember before I would look at the different cohort. It's like, nobody here is Black. Nobody here is like why am I not seeing so many like people? But yeah, oh my God, that's such a like important thing. Like literally, there were Black people in our program.
So diverse.
Our group was so diverse. Like,
had a lot of different people. We had a lot of Latinos.
Yeah.
And we had not a lot of Black people, but there were 3, 4, maybe.
4, I think. Yeah. 4. Yeah.
Which is, for a small cohort like that, like, it's important that you have some people of color to like speak to and hang out with. So it was nice.
Mm-hmm. So it's like nice also in that sense of knowing that you're not alone. But then also too, I feel like we were just all so dedicated on having a good time and having fun that like, girl, I couldn't even, I'm sure I got looks. I'm sure I got, I'm sure somebody snickered under their breath. I'm sure somebody said something under their breath or whatever, but like, that's not what I was thinking about. If you have the mindset of, I'm going to go to this country and people are going to be mean, people are going to say these things about me, you're going to experience that because that's what you're expecting. That's what you're thinking of. If you're not thinking about that, you won't even, at least for me personally, I didn't even notice it. Like I didn't even, that wasn't my priority. That wasn't my, like, that wasn't something that I wanted to dwell on. And I don't think people really just like care that much. Like, I don't know. I feel like for the most part, I feel like Spaniards are obsessed with being Spaniard. Like, I feel like they love being Spanish. So if you're respectful and if you like are not like this, like, I don't know, I don't think people will, at least in my experience, I think people just did what they had to do. Like, people just stick to themselves. People just are in their own spaces, like whatever. And then also too, I'm Muslim and Black, right? So I'm like, I never know if you're Islamophobic or if you're racist. So I kind of just, I don't know which one is which. So I'm just like, at this point, I'm not gonna care about it, and I'm just gonna live my life. And I saw a lot. I saw some Muslims. Like, I saw some hijabis. I saw them, and that was nice to just see people who were Muslim. But I hope this helps anybody who may be watching that relates to any of my identities. But yeah, just don't dwell on it. Don't think about it. Don't let it get to you, because again, that's just another person. And also, you can experience that anywhere you go. I could experience that in Chicago, Illinois. I could experience that in New York City. I could experience that any city, any town, any place I go to. I can experience some sort of negativity and prejudice. Like,
yeah,
wherever you go, you can't dwell on it. You can't dwell on it because it really has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the other person who's being hateful.
And I look back at my experience and I don't think about what happened at the store.
Yeah, like that's...
I think about when I think about Spain. So I wouldn't let any of your concerns or fears about your identity stop you from traveling. Because part of traveling is the uncertainty of not knowing how well you'll fit in, and being intrigued about that, and wanting to know about how other people live in their culture, even if you don't look like them or sound like them. I think a large part of traveling is curiosity. So if you have that curiosity, pursue it. Don't be scared.
Exactly. Don't be scared. And like, it's also just carry yourself with confidence and with grace. And because what if you were really nice to this random person on the street, and you were the first person of whatever identity that person has met, and they're like, wow, like, I used to have so much prejudice about this sort of person, but I had such a great interaction. Like I don't know, you just really never know the impact that you could have on somebody just by existing proudly and confidently. So I just think that's so important and such a good thing to keep in mind. But I don't know, and I think that it was definitely very interesting too. Like I think that definitely goes into some sort like the personal growth that I feel like I had from this experience. Like I feel like after Alicante, I was just so much more committed to being myself completely because like Thomas, how you first saw me, how you first met me, like that's me. Like I like I said before, like I made this commitment that I was just gonna, you know, go put myself out there. I was just gonna have fun. I was just gonna do whatever, no judgment. And if at the end of the day, if people were put off by it, I'm never gonna see these people ever again. We all live in different places in the United States. Thankfully I did see a bunch of people after. But this kind of just goes into, yeah, I feel like I became a lot more comfortable in myself too. And I just became even more committed that I became more committed to never hindering fear or never letting fear hinder me from going anywhere. Because I love to travel. Both of us, we love to travel, right? And like, I think that after Alicante, I was like, dude, I was fine in Alicante. I was fine in Spain. Like, literally, like, not the biggest city in Spain, like a comfortable, humble city in Spain. If I could do this here, like, I can, if I keep the same mindset, I can go anywhere I want to and it'll be fine.
You are so unapologetically yourself. I love it. I think that's why we click so well and so instantly. I just want to commend you for that. Like you will never let your identity stop you from doing something or going somewhere, just being yourself in a place that may not be conventional for it. Like especially a large part of Spain is its Catholic history and its Catholic culture. So like part of the trip was going to churches.
Mm-hmm.
And Rabiah went and she loved the architecture and she like you didn't have to walk into it and you didn't have to like appreciate the architecture.
Spain is so beautiful too because they also had that Moorish Islamic rule too. So there's so many, like, even the word Alicante is in Arabic, Alicante. It's like, I think it means like white castle or something like that. I don't know, I looked it up. But there's so many Arabic and Muslim roots within Spanish culture. So we also got to see some like architecture that has some similarities to Islamic mosques. And just like, we didn't go to the south of Spain, but I know in the south of Spain, that's where a lot of, Islamic and like Muslim architecture is too. So it was such a beautiful mix of these like cultures and then also religious spaces too. So also knowing that just as, I'm here visiting a Catholic church, there's probably tons of mosques too in Spain that people may visit, I could visit. So it doesn't matter, again, these two religions are very different, but there's also some, like, it's keeping in mind that things are still sacred and that you should still respect the religious context of everything too. So I also think I had that kind of benefit too of like, obviously, just maybe I think every Spanish person at least has some sort of knowledge about Islam, like, because I think there's a lot of cultural history in that as well. So kind of just going back to that identity thing, I think that too, it was really interesting and also beautiful to hear about some of that history and see these architectural, just like beautiful places too. But I think that also, if anything happened with anybody, I think we all became so close that we were such a support system like we were all supportive of each other. You know, we would go to a friend's. I feel like Thomas, it was your apartment all the time that we would all just go to and like eat dinner and talk and study and chat and stuff like that. But like anytime anything happened to anybody, we were all there. We were all, because like I said, it felt like we all got super, super close really quickly, but everybody was just so interested too. So it wasn't even just the Spanish people that I felt like I learned from or that I felt like I could talk about with my identity. It was the people in our group as well, because all of us came from different walks of life. Like it was honestly just as special to me meeting the people in our group than it was experiencing everybody else like in the country, because I feel like, oh my god, like we had somebody from New Hampshire in our cohort, and I'm like, who have I met from, do people from that state even exist? Like you know what I mean? And like these like Massachusetts girls, Abby, love of my life, she was like talking about how they call roundabouts rotaries, and we're like, girl, what? So it's like, it was so funny. Like we were making so many jokes of like, oh, the East Coasters, the New Yorkers think they're so cool. They think that like, you know, they know everything. But like there's a couple Midwesterners that we were kind of like, we have to stand up for ourselves.
I think going into it, I didn't expect that my cohort would be such a large part of my support system. Like I was completely living with people my age, and it was so interesting because we were making our own choices and we were being independent in our own way, and we were deciding what we wanted for dinner each night, and we were deciding where we were going to go, what route we were going to take to walk to school, and what we were going to do after, and budgeting our own money, all stuff that like I hope most of you guys are doing in college, but to a very different extent. And I think that helped a lot with me assessing my priorities at home, because once I got to Spain, they all shifted. And not in a bad way, but I think things that made me so anxious or things that I overthought so much at home sort of like blissfully went away when I was in Spain, and not in a romanticized way, more of just like stuff that I held on so tightly to at home, I realized didn't matter to the extent that I thought it would. Like, especially for me, I want to go to medical school. So I'm pursuing a career in the medical field and I want to be a doctor. And there are so many things that are constantly, you know, rolling around in my head and circling and stuff like that. I find it so hard to step away from that, about my GPA, about my job, about my volunteer hours, about everything that's so rigid and structured in my daily life that I literally have like a set schedule and a regimen and things that I know need to get done at a certain date, because that keeps me sane at home. But then when I went to Spain, my only priority was that one class and making sure that I was fed and making sure that my friends were comfortable and we were hanging out and stuff like that. And then I realized things that I was holding on to so tightly at home just didn't seem as anxiety inducing. So when I got back, I was able to reassess some stuff and maybe hold on a little less tight to certain things, or maybe care. I think it's important to care, but sometimes if you care too much, it's dangerous. So I was able to really take a step back in Spain and then come back home and be like, wow, I have a different set of priorities. I definitely see my life, because my daily life shifted a lot. So it was like, I have new priorities for what my routine is going to look like and how I'm going to live my life and experience the rest of college. So I definitely made some adjustments as needed, and I incorporated more healthier habits into my lifestyle, and that's because I went to Spain. And I don't think that if I never went to Spain, I don't think I would have made those necessary changes. And that's something I was not expecting till it helped me priorities and my anxiety and stuff like that.
What you said is so beautiful. Like, I think that finding out like, wow, it really, this thing that I'm like, this thing that I'm so nervous and anxious about is really not that serious. Like, I think that's beautiful. And I feel like any experience that can bring you more clarity on your priorities is just like life changing. Like I like when you mentioned the health thing, I always knew that I loved like walking and having that like sort of outside time and just being in nature. But like after Spain, after like literally 20,000 steps a day, walking everywhere and just like yeah, that was just your form of transportation. We didn't drive obviously, and like we just walked everywhere. I was like, I cannot live, like I've never been this happy in my life, right? And I was thinking about, okay, what is making me so happy? The fact that I'm walking it all the time, the fact that I'm eating right, the fact that I'm, just like I have this it's like it's one thing to live somewhere walkable, but it's another thing to be somewhere that like as you're walking you just see life, like you just see these beautiful displays of love and togetherness and fun and happiness. And I'm like, wow, I don't think I ever want to live somewhere that I don't feel this way. Like I want to be inspired by my surroundings and by my environment. And I definitely think my time in Alicante taught me that. Like I think I really value family and togetherness and happiness and fulfillment. And I think that the Spanish, if they don't got anything, they got that down. They got work-life balance. They got just health. Like I would crave it. Like I'm like, I need to just sit on the balcony because that's what people did. Like people were just out on the balconies, just like chilling, talking, just like on their patios, just enjoying life outside. So yeah, I think wherever I end up in the future, I want to incorporate, even if I don't necessarily end up in the specific like place I want to be, I know the steps I can take to create that environment for myself. Like I know the things that I can incorporate into my life that will give me that peace of mind and that like happiness that I experienced in Spain. Like I don't have to be in Spain to feel the Spanish
Or
like
to make
vibe,
changes.
or
Yeah.
to make changes, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think it had a lot of long lasting just like yeah, the
Lessons.
lessons.
Literally.
Yeah,
Because
literally.
we were taking
We're
school.
learning.
Yeah.
I feel like we were the like we were like the study worms. Like,
Yeah.
like we would just be like, no, we're not going here tonight. Like we're gonna study and do our little flashcards.
And the last thing would probably be like reassessing yourself and like also like understanding yourself more. Like study abroad is a self-care experience, whether you see it or not. You're
Mm-hmm.
going into it, you're putting yourself first, and you're acknowledging what do I need to be happy, what do I need to stay afloat each day, what snacks make me happy, what dinners make me happy, which friends do I want to surround myself with. And when you combine all of that stuff, it really births a new self in a way that's so authentic and revolutionary. At least it was for me. And I know a lot of the people who I studied abroad with feel the same way. Like we came back as not different people, but altered versions of our old selves that are
Mm-hmm.
way more responsible, way more healthier, way more like, I would just say like knowledgeable, like academics aside too, just like
And like geographically,
streetwise.
culturally,
Yeah, streetwise, and also like culture wise, like we just came back learning a lot more stuff with a bigger brain. We came back with a bigger brain.
Big brain. Yeah, I
And
agree.
fantastic experience. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Oh, tomorrow I'd book a flight at any point in time. So don't be afraid. Everybody's kind of in that same boat as you. It's so beautiful. I feel like we all kind of became freshmen again. There were so many different, obviously people are seniors or juniors, whatever, but we kind of that freshman-esque sort of, we don't know anybody, like we're trying to make friends, and hey, you want to go out to eat with me, or you want to do this? Like everyone's kind of in that. You're lucky. Everyone wants to make friends. Everybody wants to talk. So take advantage of it.
Yeah, and you get an orientation, and that helps a lot. And like once
Yeah.
you're already, like Rabia said, like you need to be receptive and you need to be open-minded. Like that is so key to your experience. And the orientation helps with that, right? So like everybody feels new and everybody feels excited, and you had already made such a daunting decision to decide to come to this country. So you had already unlocked that door in your brain that's telling you like, let's do something outgoing, let's do something new and different and exciting.
And I just am 1,000 times grateful for every single one of the people that we met and connected with. But yeah.
Thank you so much, USAC.
Thank you. And thank you, Luis.
Thank you, Luis.
For recommending us to be on this podcast. We love you, Luis.
Te extraño mucho.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to the Study Abroad Pod, a podcast brought to you by University Studies Abroad Consortium. Please listen, subscribe, and review us on Buzzsprout or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow USAC on all your favorite social media channels at Study Abroad USAC. And if you have an idea for a future episode or want to learn more about study abroad, you can email us at studyabroad@usac.edu. Once again, that is studyabroad@usac.edu.